G'day everyone, Big Bodsta here. In this video, I will be sharing with you my top 10 tips and tricks. I'll quickly get into it, but I just want to let you guys know that this is based off my personal experience. These tips are actually ones that I figured out for myself. Most of the main tips are already covered by Schwasty and Kamikaze. I'm not too sure if these have been covered, but these are my personal top 10 tips that I think will improve your gameplay. I know a few of these are pretty generic, but it took me ages for me to figure them out as well. Let's just get into it and you'll understand what I'm talking about. My first tip is a pretty unique one, and I don't think many people have come to say it. Avoid mass teammates. Sometimes this can work with a lot of teammates is pushing an objective, for example. I'm more talking about the time where you come across or you spawn in, there's about 8 or 10 people all in about 2-meter radius. You want to sprint the hell out of there as fast as you can. This also applies if there's a bunch of your teammates dead on the ground in a puddle. If there's about 4 or 5 guys on the ground bleeding out, you have to get into the mind of the enemy player. Think if they've thrown one of their grenades, they've killed 3 people, they're going to try and throw a grenade in the exact same spot and see how many more kills they get. If you're one of the guys trying to run in and start reviving on a bunch of your down teammates, it's more than likely the enemy are targeting that area with more grenades, or even start pushing you because they've realized I've killed a bunch of the enemy team, so I should be able to move forward. So whenever you see a bunch of dead allies, the best thing you could probably do is start dragging them away from the danger zone and spread them out. If an enemy or yourself come across a huge group of bodies, you're going to start just firing and spraying into that group of bodies. It's always best just to try and maintain a little bit of distance from each other. Also used in real war tactics, you don't want to be bunched up. Onto my second tip, actually know how powerful suppressors can be. If we're talking about the stats of suppressors, it's really good having the noise reduction as well as the muzzle flash, and you're probably thinking, yeah, that's alright. These stats actually really do matter on darker maps. Having less muzzle flash or none will make you much less of a target in firefights and be more capable of flanking the enemy. Having no bright flash at the end of your gun in a night map, you'll see a massive contrast in how many people start targeting you. Even on district, I really prefer to run suppressors just because it is a darker map and your muzzle flash will stand out a lot more in these scenarios. So just keep in mind that suppressors are really good for darker maps. Now this third tip will be one of the more common ones, but it did take me a while to realize that this was an option. By pushing in your scroll wheel on your mouse, you actually have some options. These are making use of your squad points, which you earn by taking objectives, healing squad mates, all that type of stuff. One of the main ones is cover. Cover can be deployed by anyone, and this is really good if you're out in the open or buildings have collapsed and you need something to get behind. Supports can build cover instantly where all the other classes need to hold F on them to build them up. Cover can be really useful for pushing objectives, making a solid defense, and just buffing up your cover when you're on a rooftop. Then you have the other 2 options of supply drops, which are really good for just giving your squad ammo. If you don't have a support available, you can just call in an air crate, which is really cool. As well as spawn beacons. Now, spawn beacons can only be placed by your squad lead. It's always good to have a check if you are the squad leader, or even remind the squad lead that can we please put a spawn beacon down. These are usable in game modes like Conquest, but currently not available in game modes such as Frontlines. As well, I forgot to mention with cover, if you want to rotate it, you just scroll with your mouse wheel and that will rotate it left to right before you place it. I use all 3 of these a fair bit in my gameplay. Here's one of the more of a pro play tip. If you're playing on game modes such as Frontlines, where you're really only spawning on your squad mates, if you're in a smaller squad or your squad gets wiped and you're going for a high kill game, you can easily just try and change your squad to find people that are closer to the engagement and that you can spawn on to get back into the action. This is only really good for solo play though. If you're partied up with a squad, you don't really want to be jumping to and from playing with your mates. As well as changing squads and playing with friends. Let's say it's you and 3 friends, so you've got 4 people. So when you load into a new map, you'll be put into a locked squad, so then your other 3 friends can join. Once they finish joining, your squad will actually stay locked. So that's not letting anyone else join into the squad to max it out, which is essentially reducing the manpower of the squad and how effective the squad can be with respawning. It also leaves solo players at a disadvantage, not even the pro ones, just people that want to spawn in on teammates and get back into the action a lot quicker. Doesn't even have to be pros. It just helps out getting fuller squads, and solo players can have more people to play with. My next tip is Sniper Glint. This one not many people knew about, which I thought was interesting. Snipers using long range scopes all have Sniper Glint on day maps, which is pretty common knowledge. On night maps, snipers don't actually have a Sniper Glint, so you're able to use your long range scopes without revealing your location. This goes hand in hand knowing that suppressors hide your muzzle flash. So one of the things I like to do on night maps is actually run a sniper with a long range scope and a suppressor. You are pretty much invisible. No one will find you unless they're at a close enough range to actually see you. As well as on the day maps, if you want to remove your Sniper Glint, you want to use medium range sights, which don't produce a Sniper Glint. So me personally, I've pretty much come to preferring to use an ACOG sight. I think the magnification is easy to use still. Going for the really long range shots is a bit harder, but I rarely find myself in those situations anyway, so I really enjoy using an ACOG sight. My next tip is about loadout customization. This one will probably be mentioned a lot in other videos and of their tips and tricks. It did take me a while to figure out that classes actually have different armor stats and armor loadouts available to them, as well as equipping a different backpack and belt can change how many throwables and gadgets you have. I talk about this a little bit more in my how to use classes in BattleBit Remastered video. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but yes, I advise just having a play around and look in the customization to see your stats actually change with what you pick. Staying on the same subject though, just changing your skin to match your environment as well. There are a few camos which do blend in with the surroundings a bit more, so if you want to blend in and not stand out like me wearing a blue shirt, I recommend changing your person's camo. My next tip is more for the pro plays, and that is to keep moving. I actually learnt this one when I pulled off a really big flank on Wacky Stan. I can't remember what video it was. Pretty much got about 10-11 kills or so, and I was sitting behind a car reloading before going and moving again to keep killing people. One of the enemies behind me that saw me in the distance was catching up to me. He was keeping eyes on me, knew where I was, came right up behind me and just blasted me because I stopped moving around. He knew exactly where I was, and I was a sitting duck. This also really correlates with my first tip about avoid being bunched up with teammates. You really just want to have momentum and try and keep moving and keep your enemy guessing of where you are. Also comes into play when you're taking control of a building. You don't want to re-peek out the same window. You want to try and change your position that you're having a sight on the enemy instead of keep popping your head out the same window, then they're going to expect where you are. Just simple stuff like that. Just try and keep in mind in your normal gameplay. My next tip is actually a bit of a talking point at the moment, which is taking C4 on every class. C4 is available on Assault, Medic, Support, Engineer, Sniper, or Recon, sorry. Even my mate, which has only played a few games of BattleBit, he was just like, why does Medic have C4? So that's one of the talking points at the moment. I personally think it's fine because C4 is a gateway into opening up different routes, different lines of sight, different ways to move. It just opens the maps, opens the gameplay up so much to have C4 available on you. There's so much versatility in having C4 on you. You just become much more useful to yourself and to your team. You can use it just to throw over a wall and kill people, but I mainly use it for opening my lines of sight, destroying staircases, so then it reduces access to me if I'm sniping up in a building. Or even if you're sick of people going upstairs in buildings, you can just blow the stairs up and then you reduce how many people are actually going to be in windows. Especially on Tensor Town, no one's being able to climb through or over hedges, just have C4 on you, blow them up. As well as in Conquest, it gives more versatility to each class. Vehicles always have to be afraid of being close to enemy players because any one of them could be holding C4 and just quickly throw it on you and blow you up. I'm all good with C4 being on every class, and I pretty much use it on every class. Now my next tip will probably be towards more of an average to new player, is that M is for map, and you should be looking at your map throughout the whole game. Your map is really useful for figuring out where your enemy is headed, where your teammates are pushing, what objectives you are losing, objectives actually need assistance from you or your teammates, what vehicles are where, and it provides you so much information very quickly, so then you can plan your next move of attack. Another pro tip is proning. You'll probably see me drop shot a fair bit in my gameplay. I'm still trying to find the right time to do it myself, as well as you don't want to be proning for long periods of time because then you're a sitting target, which comes back to my previous point of keep moving. Proning is one of the best ways to stop receiving fire and take cover, as you probably know. My main actual tip for this though is knowing where your legs and your body are. So when you are in prone, you know where your head's sitting. If your head is in cover, you're all good. Well, that's not essentially true. Your legs may be sticking out from behind the cover, and just you need to think of taking that into consideration. As well as if you are proning in the corner or up against a wall in a building, you have to think that your leg is probably sticking out of the wall. Now, the enemy won't be able to shoot that, but they can easily throw C4 up at the building and you will die. Essentially, you can sum it up as keep in mind rotation when you are prone. You can actually make yourself less of a target by doing what I was saying with the building, just in different scenarios. If you're behind a rock, a boulder, or like a solid terrain wall, or an exploded tank, or anything like that, I do recommend tucking your legs in to that and facing outwards because your legs aren't going to be poking out the other side, they're just going to be in a solid rock, so then enemies will only be able to see your upper body. Proning is also viable in more open spaces where if you know there's a lot of enemies coming, you can try and all ghillie up that shit and just prone in the grass. I've had it work for me a few times and it's pretty funny. You can get some pretty funny moments doing that. Now, these tips and tricks have all come into my gameplay and I use these on the very regular. If you start implementing these into your gameplay, you might see a little bit more of an improvement. Most of these tips I really haven't spoken about in previous videos, and hopefully these tips are unique and do help you out. If you are more of a new player and you're looking just for the foundation tips, I'll leave you links in the descriptions for those videos. As well, I'm pretty much covering more of the basic stuff in my other videos, such as the recoil control and the gun stats, as well as how to use classes, how to fly a helicopter, and I'll be pretty much rounding out those bigger topics in other videos. That's pretty much it, guys. If these were some unique tips and something that you didn't know, please hit that subscribe button as my reward for teaching you something new. We are absolutely still smashing it in new subscribers. Thank you guys so much for the continued support and new support. We're on a subscriber train for sure, so if you guys want to keep that going, I really appreciate everyone coming in and watching my content. It really does mean the world to me. I hope this video helped you guys out at somewhat. I'm rambling like always, so I'll cut it here and I'll catch you guys in the next one.